I noticed that too. I wonder if I should no, I hadn't said that yet, but I'm I gave it to her back there.
All right, if I can have everyone's attention here, we're going to go ahead and get started, if it's okay with everyone. First thing we're going to have on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Yeah. Next, we have a special presentation. Someone step back and do this. We try from time to time to recognize outstanding citizens in our community, and this is one of those nights. So I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas the Town Council of the Town of Pendleton, South Carolina recognizes outstanding citizens of our community, and whereas Dr. Nancy Von Meyer is a Pendleton resident and a recognized expert in U.S. land records, GIS, and cadastral information, I hope I pronounced that right. And whereas Dr. Nancy Von Meyer has recently been inducted into the Urban and Regional Information Systems Association Hall of Fame. And whereas Dr. Von Meyer is the second woman in the history of URISA to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And she shares this title with NASA, the U.S. Census Bureau, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And whereas Dr. Von Meyer has developed many partnerships providing support in GIS systems and has been recognized by senior industry executives, U.S. Cabinet Department secretaries, and referenced in congressional research reports. And whereas Dr. Von Meyer has been helpful and shared her mapping talents directly with Town of Pendleton. And whereas the Pendleton community is extremely fortunate to have a citizen of this magnitude as a resident. Now therefore, we, Mayor Frank Crenshaw, and the Pendleton Town Council do hereby proclaim the 8th day of November, 2022 as Dr. Nancy Von Meyer Day in the town of Pendleton, and we encourage all citizens to join this celebration. Nancy, would you please come up?
I thought everybody was here for the town council.
No.
Everybody was going like, hey man, we got party coming. This is a big deal. We're all here for that.
This is all about you. We appreciate what you do for us, and you're just an awesome person to have living here.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks.
Oh, no, you're my real family right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. We really appreciate it. Okay, so next we're going to move to council updates. Do what? I'm sorry.
Right, sorry. I'm sorry, it has nothing to do with your meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, is it something?
We just had someone leave and, yeah, we're good.
We're good.
We're good.
Okay. All right. We'll move on. It's council updates here, just a couple things. We got some cards I wanted to share with council here. One of them here, I just read it. Mayor Crenshaw, the members and board of the Pendleton Foundation for Black History and Culture extend great gratitude for your thoughtfulness and generation for the $1,600 donation. We wish you and council continued prosperity. So I thought that was nice. We got another one here too. And this was Mayor Crenshaw. A single word of thanks is not sufficient to fully express our appreciation of the beautiful donation to the Pendleton Community Center. With expressions of gratitude, we give thanks to you and all council members for the $1,600 donation. We, the members and board of the PCC, thank you. So just want to share that with you. One last thing here. Well, actually, two, I need to mention, we took it off the agenda, but it is on the agenda that the update on the market, the farmer's market 2022 is moving to the December meeting. So just so everybody knows that. One other thing coming up that I'm working on here, just to mention to council that I'd like to maybe do here soon, is starting in January, I'm working on doing probably start out will be in a monthly meeting, and to avoid having a quorum, we'll probably rotate one council member in this meeting every month. And what I'd like to do is for us just to have a meeting with just the citizens every month, just to hear input, just to ask questions. Not sure where we're going to have it. I've sort of fanned it around with a couple people, and I just think it would be an informal atmosphere where if you guys got questions about the town government, got some ideas of whatever, we could just sit down in an informal atmosphere and talk about it once a month. Hopefully that's something that'll work. I don't know how long it'll last. It'll last as long as it lasts, I guess. And we'll see how it goes with the monthly. If we want to change it later, we can. We can maybe change it to quarterly or something else, depending on how many people we have want to participate in it and so on. So having said that, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is going to be the approval of minutes. Hopefully council's had a chance to look at them. If you have any corrections we need to make or changes, let us know here. If not, do I hear a motion to pass?
I would just like to comment that I had asked for the administrator's report to be included in that, and I do appreciate that was taken care of. Thank you very much.
Very good. Anything else? Anybody'd like to change or share or change?
You want to make a motion?
Motion, we'll take a motion.
I'm going to make a motion. I read through the minutes, that I accept them as read
Okay.
and written.
Okay, we have a motion to pass the minutes as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Got a second? Motion and second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right, next we have a public comments section. This is for comments only. No questions will be taken at this time. Questions will be taken at the end of the meeting as, okay. We have a 3-minute limit on this. No actions will be taken on these items. And you must be a business owner, a property owner, or resident of the town of Pendleton to speak in public comments. And having said all of that, is there anyone out there that would like to make a comment? If you would, yes, ma'am, I see you. If you'll come on up, we need you to state your name and your address, if you would, when you get up here.
My name is Serena Dubose. I live at 198 East Main Street, Pendleton. I wanted to speak to one of the items that I hope is still on the agenda, which was Evan Hill's report of three-winged elms to be removed from the square and what they are to be replaced with, which I understand Mr. Picorni suggested maples and evergreens that have thrived on the square as replacement trees. I wanted to speak as a famous Dr. Seuss character once did for trees, and I want to speak specifically for white oaks. You know, the best day to plant a tree was yesterday, and the next best day to plant a tree is right this minute. I want to see live oaks specifically planted in Pendleton, not just for the square, which may or may not be the most appropriate place for them, but be considered for all the other various beautification, development, improvement areas that Pendleton is planning. And I have a book that if y'all haven't read it, it's a great read. It's by a man named Douglas Talmy, who is a college professor, and he writes a lot about keystone plants and what we have done to our environment, urban and suburban environments, by planting lawns, essentially, and broken up the ecological support for our songbirds, for all of our wildlife. And specifically, white oaks are one of the most supportive of wildlife trees that exist. They support hundreds of caterpillar species. Now, y'all may not like caterpillars because they eat your plants. However, that is a good thing. If something is eating your plants, that means they're getting fed. They're caterpillars. They are going to feed baby birds. The mamas and the daddy birds are going to come get those caterpillars, and they're going to feed their babies, and we're going to still have songbirds in Pendleton. So that's basically what I wanted to say is I'm supporting the addition to any landscaping contracts that the city issues to include a consideration for native plants. Those are the ones that will support our environment and keep us beautiful and green here in Pendleton. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Is there anyone else out there that'd like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am, on the front row here. We'll get you next.
Thank you for allowing me this time. My name is Annalyn Watkins. I live at 693 Pinewood Court here in Pendleton. I have been asked to read a statement from Scott Ward, as he could not be here today. So if you will allow me, Scott lives at 135 Mikasa Drive, and he says, I wanted to once again express my support for the Morton Farm to be rezoned to a flexible review district, the FDR. The Morton family has worked through the process as prescribed by the Town of Pendleton ordinances and has ensured that the historic house will be segregated on a separate lot and saved. The developers have been responsive. They initially had a public meeting for feedback to develop a plan and have made to date over 50 changes to their plan. They have given consideration for retaining trees and buffer zones, and they have been available to answer questions as they arise. The rezoning of the Morton Farm promises to be a catalyst to that side of town. It should bring much needed growth and vitality to an area surrounded by an abandoned trailer park, subsidized housing, Pendleton's public works yard, and single-family housing. I am pleased that the Planning Commission approved the plan and that council voted to move it to tonight's first reading. I hope that the mayor and council will approve this first reading this evening. Thank you. And that was from Scott. If I've got a minute more, I would just like to voice my agreement with this. I will be honest, as a citizen of the town of Pendleton, I don't like more development. I never have. It causes a mess. It looks like things are going to be awry and crazy. But at the end of the day, we're beautifying our town. We're giving a family who's been here for 5 generations an opportunity to have the funds they need to finance their future. And I know that they have been respectful and good members of our community. And I ask that we be respectful of them and grant them this opportunity to sell their land and do what they need to do for their father and for their future. I know you all work so hard for us. We thank you for all of that. I don't envy you. And I know that you will be glad when not only the Morton Farm, but the Pendleton Oil Mill are things of the past. And I appreciate your time. And if you'll excuse me, I have to be at the Greenville Airport at dark 30 in the morning, so I'm heading home. Y'all have a blessed
Thank you.
evening.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am. That's Amy.
Hi there, I'm Amy Trick. I live at 362 East Main Street. I'm here once again because another month has passed and no tangible progress has been made on the oil mill. I am still paying attention and I am not going away, and neither are my neighbors. We have been living in squalor for a year now since efforts on the oil mill cleanup ceased, and it's not acceptable. It's deeply unsafe. I received a survey about the future of the development of the oil mill, and I was appreciative that the first question was, the Pendleton oil mill should the Pendleton oil mill be attended to as quickly and safely as is possible? And it's strongly agreed from me. I'll tell you all in person. But frankly, that shouldn't even be a question at this point. It should just be, we should be taking action. I know you're doing things behind the scenes with a lawyer, but frankly, nothing has actually changed out there. I still live next to squalor. I still smell the mold. I still get the mosquitoes and the rats and the mice, and it's still a fire hazard. So you all need to do something that makes a tangible difference. Whatever you're doing, I appreciate the effort, but it's not enough because it's not changed. And I would also like to add, I hope to be like, I'm not going away. You're going to see me here every month till it's cleaned, and then maybe I'll take up another cause. But in the meantime, what I ask is also that you, as these kinds of surveys are going out, you're thoughtful about what might go there, because one of the questions also addressed putting something 4 stories there. You all have seen my house. It's a little 1-story thing. Living in the shadow of a 4-story, like poorly planned development would also be a little bit of a shame. Better than the current state for sure. But I just ask that you, one, attend to it swiftly and make a tangible difference for those of us in the neighborhood by actually making sure it's cleaned up and not just in negotiations in perpetuity, as it seems to have been, but also that you're thoughtful about what goes there in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Anyone? Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Eureka Heine, 368 East Main Street. I'm also going to talk once more about the oil mill. I also received the survey, and I really appreciate that the town is reaching out to us and ask the questions like, so how we could imagine actually a future at the oil mill, that you're asking how pressing we feel like this whole thing is for us. It's very pressing, as you can hear. Like, so Amy's making a point. I'm trying to make a point every time that you guys are meeting, and we're hoping for progress and we don't see it. I know things are going on behind the scenes, and I think we all would appreciate if you were very open about that, so that we get the sense of like progress here and not just like that something happens behind the scenes. I filled out the survey. I handed it over to my husband and he filled it out as well. I think it's very, very, very dangerous if you ask the question if we should allow a maximum of 4 stories in any development proposed for the oil mill site. I think no structure in Pendleton in the historic district so far is 4 stories high, and it's not supposed to be there either. Not a single structure along the Highway 76 is as tall as you're proposing here right now. So if you're asking that question and people are desperate to get a change, you get the wrong answers. So that was my comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am, in the back. Come on up.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good.
My name is Melissa Powell. I live at 112 Cherry Street. I also co-own 102 to 108 East Main commercial properties, and I operate a business out of 102 East Main. I just wanted to comment on the proposed parking plan. I have some concerns about, particularly, of course, my street, at Cherry Street. It looks like there's going to be double parking on both sides of the street. Our street is very narrow. And so I have concerns about how that's going to add in on both sides of the street. I know we need the parking and I understand that. It just looks like a lot to be added in right there. And looking at some of the other streets, like also on Queen Street, there is an area that looks a little too narrow for both sides of the street parking. And so I just wanted to ask, that was brought to my attention very recently, like maybe in the past day or so. If maybe in this process, some of the homeowners that live on these streets that will be impacted by the parking, the amount of parking, if we could be involved in that process. I don't know what rock I've been under that I missed all of this. But anyway, and I know a couple of my neighbors are here as well because they are also concerned about that. I also want to just thank you all for your service. I know you guys do a ton of work behind the scenes, staff, council, all the various committees. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Come on up. You're good.
Am I good?
Oh, yeah.
Anita Church, 330 Sitton Drive. This is a list. I'm just going to read it. This is about the Ben Morton project. This 28-acre project of intense development is a 10-minute walk from right here. It has anything so close to town ever been undertaken in Pendleton? I think we need to consider that. A 30-foot buffer on the west property line was committed to in Ben Shirley's email of August 26th that Steve Miller has copied us on, or has been copied on. This is to protect the matured tree row and provide a screening for adjoining property, our property. Our question will be, can this 30-foot space be considered free of mowing so that we can allow the shrubs and the trees to grow so that we have a buffer from the project? What controls will the town conduct to mitigate construction traffic to safeguard health, safety, and welfare of the people in town? There are no shoulders on Cherry or Calhoun. So it's with this big truck traffic that's very unsafe. What will be done to prevent adverse impacts of construction on the surrounding areas as relating to noise and the dust that will be generated by construction?
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I didn't hear it. Okay. So anyway, so we're concerned about noise and dust and construction. Will construction be permitted 7 days a week? Will the hours of construction be limited to certain hours so that people in the neighborhood can live through this? And how long will the noise, the construction project last? I think the residents deserve to know that. How will the trees and the root zones be protected from this mass grading project? This, including that tree row that is on the project plan, as well as any old growth trees that I know that they're trying to save. but something has to be put into place very specifically of how to protect trees. It is not easy to do. Also, erosion is a concern. Silt fences didn't work well on the Grange. At the Grange, the silt came right over the main access road there to the Grange. It was a mess. They finally had to put fiber matting on their steeper slopes. I would recommend just going ahead and hydromulching with native grasses and native plants. So all the steeper slopes, anything over 5-to-1, you cannot mow. A resident cannot mow. So anything over 5-to-1, I would recommend just hydromulch it. And it'll be good for however long this takes to finish.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, in the blue. Come on up.
Good evening. I'm Miriam Hutto. I live at 108 Cherry Street. Yes, we have concerns about the parking plan I was just informed of. I don't, like, my front porch to the sidewalk is 14 feet. The sidewalk's 4 feet, and then to the road where the white line is 5 feet. So that's just 9 feet. Are you doing away with the sidewalk? I'm not sure where you're putting these cars. Yeah, so then if you're going to widen the road, is it going to be, or will they be speed bumps? Cars already fly up and down that road? Yeah, those are questions I have. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments? Anyone? Okay. Yes, sir. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Gary Moore. I live at 146 Spyglass Lane. I'm here to speak about the Morton Farm. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. Although they have attended many of these meetings, Carolyn and Mary Frances, the daughters of the owners, Ben and Helen Morton, could not make it tonight. I'm here with my brother-in-law, Carl Burnett, who's Mary Frances's husband. We started this process over 2 years ago, and over that time have been through multiple submissions, revisions, meetings, and votes. We are fortunate to have found a partner in Somerset who has been willing to participate in that process. Somerset has gone above and beyond what any other developer would do. They have taken input at multiple public meetings, made changes based on that input, submitted plans to staff, incorporating those suggestions as well, and have presented to multiple commissions and councils. They've been tireless in their willingness to see this project improve our town and serve the majority of our citizens. We have seen multiple developments in Pendleton built without such consideration. The Morton family has also worked hard to see this to completion. Over these last 2 years, we have incurred large carrying costs. Ben, who is the 5th generation on that farm, has had precipitous decline in his health and is no longer able to fully care for himself. And sadly, Helen, who was here to help begin this difficult but necessary process, is no longer here to see it completed. But now, these 2 years later, we are almost there. Our family and building partner urge you to make this first reading and then final vote a yes to complete this work for us and the town of Pendleton. Thank you.
Thank you for comment. We appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close this session of public comments. We're going to move on. Next, we have some reports for you. First up will be the police department report, and we have Chief Robert Crosby here to give us that report.
Get this over with. As you guys all have in your packets, just our standard calls for service have been continuously increasing. People are calling for everything really and asking for our help and stuff. But even though you see high volume of calls for service, you do see that there's only 12 incident reports that we took. So crime itself and incidents that are involved in any kind of report writing and things like that are diminishing or have slowed in October. We were able to clear 2 of those with arrest or either taking warrants out. We have increased our traffic though in the downtown area, predominantly along Mechanic Street. As you can see in our citation count, we issued 10 warning tickets, but we did write 21 state citations this month. And that's again to combat a lot of the traffic coming into downtown, which rolls into my bullet points with the uptick in traffic and pedestrian traffic at the square. So the past 2 weeks, we have done a lot more on foot and utilizing our side by side to get around and to try to address some of the parking issues, some of the parking needs, assisting people with looking for parking and things like that, which has taken up a lot of our time away from some of our standardized patrol. I know that Friday, even though we're 2 Fridays ago, even though we have a whole entire town to patrol, we spent 2.5 hours alone dealing with Queen Street and Exchange Street, just dealing with the parking issues with that between 2 of us. So we added essentially an uptown walking beat to that to try to combat that. The shifts are also adjusting to provide some pedestrian relief and to try to direct some of the parking issues when we have the Christmas Kindle Market and the tree lighting and things like that, so that we're able to hopefully address any of the people's needs prior to it becoming a problem on our end and having people park in front of people's driveways and houses and things like that. So kind of last but not least, we are in the process of finalizing those updates with the policies that I talked about as far as state law that went into effect July 1st. We'll have those in front of you guys, hopefully, well, in December next month, which will, I believe, benefit us very well in some of the revisions, and it brings us up into the model with the 21st century policing model that was under President Obama, and some of the things that the DOJ has recommended as current model policies for a modernized law enforcement and professional law enforcement, which, you know, we continuously try to achieve every single day. Other than that, we've had a kind of a fairly mundane month, though, and I'll take any questions.
The chief and I were having a quick conversation about signage and wayfinding for parking. And I think that would both help him and as well as even before we start our other parking plans.
I think so. And I noticed we had put up a sign saying more parking was available on Broad Street up there.
A temporary.
Temporary.
Yeah, and I think that would help too. You know.
Yeah, and we're always accommodating, even if we have to utilize our speed trailer as a message board, because, you know, we do that for the market and things like that. We can bring that in and try to find a good centralized location. If we want to push people or direct people towards a certain area, we can change the messages on it and accommodate whatever you guys want us to do.
I think if we can start directing people and giving people an idea about where the parking is, that will help
Okay.
take some of the stress off of downtown.
Okay.
Agreed.
I do know they put up 2 signs over next to, I guess, East Main. And I can't remember where I saw the other one, but some directional signs about parking this way or that way, I think will help. Because not everybody come into town to enjoy our great restaurants know where Broad Street is. So some wayfinding, I think, will be important.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
I had one question about
Yes, sir.
related to pedestrian traffic.
Okay.
At Exchange and at East Main and Mechanic. You know, we're just down from the light right there. There's 4 crosswalks at that intersection, but most people on Mechanic seem to not understand that pedestrians should get the right of way at that.
No, I 100% agree. And that's one of the reasons that we have been targeting the Mechanic Street area, especially for speeding and things and sitting around close to that intersection. So if we do observe, and we're actually, Steve has allowed us to upfit our side-by-side, and it's now going to be upfitted with and has lights and things on it. So we could literally sit there and have something that has a small footprint and sit at pedestrian crossings, and that gives us the ability to stop a car or anything like that that comes through if somebody has a stroller or carrying their children and things like that. So we should be able to add a little bit of enforcement to the crossings and stuff, because obviously currently right now we're just stuck in our big, you know, our Explorers to do that. But with the addition of the side-by-side, that should give us a little bit quicker response.
What do you think about those? I mean, I've just seen in some places they have a thing that, like a plastic thing that sits out in the middle of the road. I mean, they don't look great, but
I know that Steve probably has the answer to this, and it's probably going to be the DOT policy and what the state DOT will allow us to place in the middle of the road. Are they a great idea? Yeah, I've seen them work, especially around campuses and things like that. I'm a big fan of illuminated pedestrian crossing signs. I know Lynn and I had spoken about that before. So, people can completely see, hey, I know 100% of the fact I'm coming up to a pedestrian crossing. And then there's no excuse if they come through when somebody's in the crosswalk.
Chief, we have these partnership relationships with some of our other police forces.
Yes, sir.
In the county. I know we got budget restraints, of course, but I'm just throwing it out there. Is that maybe an option where we could, get some additional help on a Friday night from?
So you're talking about, and I think I know where you're coming from, Mike. You're talking about bringing in like an off-duty, something like that. I do know after speaking with the sheriff on Thursday that the sheriff's office is fully staffed. So they probably have something where we could bring in and hire a deputy or 2 deputies to work off duty for a couple hours during our busiest time. I would have to speak to the chief deputy about that, not because they wouldn't do it, but especially if we're going to request them to take enforcement actions, not that they can't do it or won't do it, but I don't know as far as what the sheriff's going to say when it comes to adding, court dates and things like that to some of his deputies.
Sure.
Can we obviously hire them? Absolutely. And could that allow maybe my officers free up to take those enforcement actions, and maybe we would put them in like the mule and let them ride around and help people out. So there's always a way to work things like
it's
that.
an opportunity to at least look into that.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right, thanks, Chief.
All right, Chief, I think you've got 2 projects coming up. Can you remind us about those 2 projects?
Yes. I thought I put that on there. So we still have the old shop with the cop. If you haven't taken a flyer, they're right there at the window. Don't forget they have a little QR code. Feel free to donate. And so that's coming up. What was my other project? You might have to remind me now, Lynn.
Taking the children for shopping.
That's the shop with the cop.
Shop with the cop.
All right, and then you had Toys for Tots.
Okay. Oh, yes. Toys for Tots. That's really in partnership with with Amber and her staff and then team that we get the whole town hall and everybody here at the town collects those things and we get those taken out to the distribution site and things like that.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I forgot about the Toys for Tots. Again, don't forget the flyers, folks.
Anybody else? If not, thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. Next, we have a planning and zoning report. We have David Polson here to give us that one.
Mr. Mayor, Council, good evening. Had another busy month in planning during the month of October. We are seeing a decline in actual permits that we're permitting. We've seen them go from 20, 25 a month to last month was a little bit lower. This month in October, we only issued 8 permits. Those permits broke down as to 5 new homes, 1 interior remodel, 1 new roof, and 4 others. So we're seeing a decline in the permits, which is giving us time to work on some other things in the office. In October, the planning department spent a lot of time finalizing submittals for a group who is seeking approval to develop approximately 80 acres at the rear of Village of Town Creek Apartments located on Lebanon Road. This development was scheduled and presented to the Planning Commission at their meeting in October. At that meeting, the planning department elected to hold a work session to gather some more information, and they plan on bringing that back at their meeting this week on November 10th. Planning staff also spent a lot of time this month in October working with a consultant. What we're doing is we're looking at our neighborhood commercial district zoning to look at that, and we had a couple different things we wanted to do. One, we were looking at that zoning to make sure that it fit what the town is trying to do in the future, and to make sure that it is doing what it has to do to save the characteristics of neighborhoods. Also, what we were trying to do was if there is an opportunity to develop the oil mill site, we wanted to get public input on what they thought would look good there. So those were the 2 things that we were trying to do with that. What we started doing was we actually interviewed several individuals. We took from that interview, we took some questions. We did create a survey. That survey went out to several individuals. I think all of y'all have seen the survey. We're now in the process of collecting the data from the survey to see what it's telling us so that we can move forward on that. Really what we're trying to do with that is we're just trying to create a stopgap until we can get the UDO done. Once we get the UDO done, there's a very good possibility that we will completely redo our neighborhood commercial district inside that UDO. But we wanted to make sure that what we're doing now move forward is protecting that area and protecting neighborhood commercial in the town. The other thing that we worked on during the month was we assisted our town engineers, which is Goodwin, Mills, Kaywood, with the West Queen Street Streetscape public meeting. This meeting provided the citizens an update of where we're at and a particular timeline for completion. We had approximately 10 residents in attendance, and it was a really good meeting. One thing that we are noticing that's ticking upwards in planning is we're getting an influx of permitting questions on infill lots. As you guys know, we had a moratorium on infill lot development. Since we've lifted that moratorium, we have really seen a lot of questions and people that are actually working on developing infill lots. Currently, we're working through about 15 lots. We're working on 3 on Stevens Road, 6 on Thompson Street, 2 on Colonial Court, 4 on Grand Oak Circle, 4 on Lebanon Road, and 1 on Stratford Street, or Stratford Road. Those are all that we're in the process now of permitting, and we'll probably see those next month. And if you remember, the moratorium allowed us to do the design standards that you guys approved, and it's really been a great thing. It's really helped us make sure that we are preserving the characteristics of the neighborhoods. It is creating a little bit more work because we have to go through these steps and make sure that what they're doing is in line with what's there in the neighborhood, but it's really seemed to be working out well, and it's not really haven't gotten any kickback from any developers on that. So where we're not submitting permits so far, we're spending a lot of time on infill lot development. The town received 5 applications for the newly created code enforcement animal control position, and we plan on conducting interviews actually this week, this Thursday and Friday. So hopefully we'll have some more information on that soon. Upcoming meetings in September, we have the Planning Commission meeting on November the 10th, and we possibly have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting come up at the end of the month for a sign ordinance permission to do a sign. So that's all I have. Unless you have any other questions for me, I'll be glad to try and answer them for you.
How, on the infill lots, are a lot of those being subdivided?
No, so a lot of these are just lots that just have grass on them, and people are buying them up. Now, some of them are being subdivided, but most of them are just lots that are between 2 houses, and people are buying them to build houses on.
And can you just say, like, for the public, if you had a 1 acre lot, what are the rules around subdividing it before it becomes, goes to the planning commission?
So it depends on the zoning in the area. So like if you're in an R2 or an R1, you have to have 20,000 square foot per lot. So if you have a 1 acre lot and you're in an R1, you can get 2 lots out of that. That's 20,000. 40,000 is your square footage for an acre. So that only allows you to do that if you have an R2. You do 10,000 square foot lots, R3, R4, so on and so forth. So it's really in our ordinance, it defines what you can do on a particular size of property. Again, it's different when you get to FRDs and PUDs and stuff like that, but the ordinance really spells out the size of the lot, what you can do on an acre of land.
I think what he was asking David was, when does it take planning commission approval versus when is it staff approval?
Oh, I'm sorry. So there's 2 different things. It's called a minor subdivision and a major subdivision. Anything over 5 subdivisions or 5 lots that you want to separate has to go to the planning commission. Anything under 5 lots is considered a minor subdivision and can be done by staff. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking about size.
No, I just want to clarify because a lot of this verbiage for the public, I think, is intense to deal with, but I just want for people to have in their mind, if you live in a neighborhood and there's 2 vacant lots that go up for sale, that could, depending on how big it is and depending on if you're R1 or R2, that could be subdivided, and multiple houses go into that area. So that is what this infill moratorium ordinance was trying to deal with a little bit, was to make sure there's some buffer. Again, if you're not doing 5 subdivisions, then nobody besides staff is ever going to see that. It's just going to get permitted. And so the infill rules being better in terms of design needing to fit in with the existing neighborhood, those are there to protect the public. So that, okay, all of a sudden you got 4 new houses going in in a spot that's been nothing. Wait, where did that come from? How were they able to do that? So I just think people understand the process.
Sure,
is
I'm sorry I
important.
did not.
We're dealing with this stuff a lot, but I think we got to put it in layman's terms.
Sure, sure. Anything else?
No, I guess that's
Thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Steve Miller, give us the administrator's report.
The billing date for last month was 10/25. We billed 8,995,000 gallons of water. That's equivalent to $71,503 in revenue. Sewer, we billed 8,691,000 gallons of sewer. For the consumption-based sewer portion, that's $81,835 in revenue. Of that, 1,723 sewer customers inside the town limits, 8 were outside. 1,773 water customers were inside the city limits, and 43 were outside, for a combined total of that of 3,547 connections. For the flat rate billing, which is only dealing with when we do not supply water to them, we billed $13,683. That equates to 62 multifamily sections and 291 single-family customers, for a total of 353 connections, which brings the total number of connections of water and sewer to 3,900 connections. For October 2022, we rented the depot building once, Barracks Place shelters 5 times. We collected $1,134 in business license, $17,974 in motor vehicle, and $2,547 in property tax. We had 1,063 transactions for the month, for a total of $298,869. And we had 775 customers this month paid online for $62,000 in transactions. And I always like to clarify, since I have all new faces, $299,000 includes the partners' payments for the waste treatment plant, which can be very significant every month, upwards up to $100,000 a piece. So that is not all revenue that the town is bringing in just for town usage. Clemson Community Care assisted 3 utility customers this month, and municipal court had a total of 48 cases. 1 case was dismissed or found not guilty. 41 cases were continued, and 2 cases were found guilty in their absence, and 4 cases were pled guilty. And I want to make another note. We did receive our municipal judge is retiring. We have met with the county, and at some point, council will have to make a determination whether we continue a contract with the county, which I would highly recommend, or we start our own court system, which will be very, very expensive, and hire our own judge. But we will be having to decide that. I believe it's actually next month, because he will be retiring December 31st.
April.
It's April now. He'll be retiring in April now. Set off debt total amount for a utility bill of $255.53. And police fines for September of 2022, which was 2 months ago, was $2,009.93. Of that, the town's portion was $700.88. For October, we entered 290 work orders, but we were able to complete 353 work orders, some of those from months prior. And property tax, I think most people have gotten their property tax notice. We are aware that there are some issues with the Anderson County property tax this year. This reevaluation is affecting everyone across the county. It's not just singled out to Pendleton. And these are for your 2022 taxes that are due by January 2023. For council, last week, we finally received what our ATI, which is assessable transfer of interest, and our new growth numbers that the county, we've been trying to get from the county. And at the same time, we received our tax roll from the auditor. And then we also know that many properties inside of town have received a 6% instead of 4% valuation, which is inflating our tax rolls. We also know there are a lot of concerns from people out there about their taxes, because some of them are getting 6%, so therefore they're having to pay operation and maintenance costs in schools, which are drastically increasing their tax bills, thousands of dollars, because the school system has a high millage. And we're trying to get the accurate information. We've been talking to MASC, we've been talking to the assessor and the auditor. As most of the council knows, our auditor has actually only been in his position since August 3rd, I believe, and had to come up with these valuations. We are going to be setting up a work session with you guys because we do need to have a discussion about moving forward on the tax and what it's actually doing to our millage and what it's doing to our budget and what our options are. We're going to try fairly soon if we have all the correct numbers, and we're not sure we have all the correct numbers yet because they're changing. Have that before the end of November with you guys. In better news, last month we received $645,149 in grants and other funding sources for various projects. So ACTC, which is the Anderson County Transportation Committee, we got $600,149, which we will have to come up with a match of $60,000 to do road paving. And the streets to be paved are Pruitt Street, Picasso Street, Jackson Street, and a section of South Elm Street. Now, with pricing right now, I'm not going to say all of them are going to get paid. We have when we max $660,000 to pave, and we will have to bid all of these things and see how they come back, and hopefully they come back within that number. We were also awarded PARD money from the legislative delegation. This money, we were awarded $12,000 for Barrett's Place and $8,000 for swing installation on the Village Green. And the MASC awarded us a hometown economic development grant, $25,000 to use to do a master plan of the Pendleton oil mill site and the area around the Pendleton oil mill site. So we'll be going into a much deeper master planning of that area. And we have to spend it by 2024, but I want to imagine council will want to start sooner than 2024. But we did get awarded that, so that was very good. As far as capital projects go, we had two pre-bids last month. We had the pre-bid at the waste treatment plant on October 25th, and we had 4 construction groups show up. We're looking to do a construction manager at risk on that project, and so they will be submitting requests for proposals and qualifications to us so that we can review and grade and get back to the 3 respective councils for their approval. In West Queen Street, we had a pre-bid meeting, is actually toward the end of last week. We had 4 contractors also show up for it. The bid opening will be November 17th. And we will have that back to council in December to look at awarding so we can send it to Commerce.
Any questions, anyone? No? Okay, so before we go on here, I'm going to stop the meeting for just a little bit to just remember our former council member, Mr. Bruce Calley, who used to sit up here with us for a long time. He unfortunately lost his battle to pancreatic cancer recently. Very good man and did a lot for our town, and I'd just like for us to observe just a few moments of silence just in remembrance of Bruce. Thank you. We'll move on now to the discussion items. We only have one actually, and that's the follow-up discussion to the town of Pendleton's burning ordinance. And I think we had, I think the department looked into that. It's pretty much what we had here. And to follow up, basically council, to follow up on council requested that staff look into the burn ordinance and follow up with other towns and cities to receive input from their code enforcement on the adopted ordinances regarding outdoor burning in fire pits. The police department went into that. Would you like to elaborate on that some, Robbie?
I can, Mr. Mayor. I polled and spoke to several of the municipalities around here. See in the letter for you all, the city of Clemson, I tried to get every size, and I went, the city of Simpsonville, city of Anderson. I spoke to Belton, spoke to their fire chief, Everyone utilizes the International Fire Code as far as the establishment and foundation for their burn ordinances. That's section 307. Every one of their ordinances all either refer back to the International Fire Code or they have written their own town ordinance to mimic the International Fire Code under section 307, which essentially, in breaking it down, allows for no open burning except either with permitted exceptions and just the typical use of open small fire pits for personal use or for personal barbecues for recreational purposes. So it's either permitted large burns, which is very rare in the upstate, or it's just already ordinanced in for recreational small fire pits and usage. And that's kind of where it stood at. My recommendation was to continue to keep to our city ordinance regarding the burning ordinance. We haven't received any complaints from any of the neighborhoods. We haven't got any calls for service regarding excessive smoke. We haven't received any calls to assist the fire department regarding any kinds of recreational fires or anything like that. And I believe the ordinance is, the meat and potatoes of it is holding well with the intention or the intent that the ordinance was written in.
Okay. I know she said in there that you recommend that the current ordinance is sufficient.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And does not merit amending at this time.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any more discussion on that? No.
Well, the letter also said about the HOAs. I mean, this whole complaint was about a man that has respiratory problems, and
yes, sir.
Should we basically beef up the ordinance to deal with the fact that some people might have adverse respiratory response to just the small recreational fires. And yeah, I think as unfortunate as that is, we're asking people to be respectful of your neighbors and check in with them, pay attention to which way the wind is blowing, and if you know your neighbors are having problems, then try not to get smoke in their area.
And if there is a problem, Vince, I mean, we will be more than happy to come out there and evaluate if there is a complaint. We're not going to ignore it.
Anybody else? If not, we're going to move on to some action items. First, we have consideration of a resolution establishing a budget calendar for fiscal year 2023-2024 budget process. This resolution provides the important dates needed, starting January 18th and moving on, so we can get the budget done in a timely manner. Anybody got any questions about that one? If not, do I hear a motion that we pass this resolution?
I make a motion. Oh,
You go ahead, I'll second your motion.
okay.
All right, so I think I have a motion and a second here. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. And the motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have consideration of awarding a bid for the RFQ for the creation of a unified zoning and development ordinance for the town of Pendleton. Background on this, the town requested RFQs for the 2022-2023 budget, which is what we're in now, for the development of a unified zoning development ordinance. We received one proposal that exceeds the estimated budget amount by roughly $30,000. Staff believes the extra public engagement included in the proposal added approximately an additional $20,000. Staff requested this extra engagement based on statements from council regarding their goals and objections. Page 24 under phase 2 does discuss the public engagement. Staff could request that some of the public engagement be condensed to decrease the cost if council desires. If the council votes to award the bid to this company, the MRB Group, a budget amendment will be forthcoming to determine where the additional funds may be available. Recommended action is approval. I think this is a great thing, but beyond that, What's council's pleasure? What do y'all think?
I think that the extra community engagement is vital to the project. And so I would recommend that we move forward with this proposal.
Okay. That helps. You want to just put that in the form of motion?
I move that we accept this and award the bid for the RFQ regarding the UDO.
I just have one follow-up
Yes, sir,
question
you
on
go right
this.
ahead.
Just in terms of, well, the UDO is a big deal in that it kind of cracks open all of our zoning and looks at all the zoning classes. And I agree with Lynn. That's why I think it's so important to have public input where we're literally trying to define again in the best possible way. And if anything, add more detail to the uses that are allowed in the town and what areas they're allowed. If we get in with these people and they're not really working with us that good, I'm just curious. It seems like a big project. Of course, I think it probably is going to go great. I have no doubt. But I just am curious what would be steps if we kind of had an introductory meeting or we kick things off and we're like, wait, they don't actually get Pendleton. Not saying that would happen.
Yeah, I'd have to prefer that to Steve, I guess, but, you know, that was really the only bid we got, and it's hard sometimes to get bids. What do you think, Steve?
So what your question is dealing with is, as our attorney would say, is how do you get divorced? And
oh, we want prenup.
Yeah, we want
well,
prenup.
well, that's what your RFQs and your contract documents and everything else is. And in general, and we have had it before here, and I've had it in past in my career, where you've had to fire contractors, you've had to institute liquidated damages, you've had to do various means. There's means out there to do it. Are you getting out for nothing? The honest answer is no. So, you know, with anybody, if we'd have had, you know, I guess to put everybody's mind at ease, if you would have had 15 RF qualification packets come in and we went through all of them, you could still eventually get the wrong one because it's whoever, at some stage, whoever can make the best packet, not whoever does the best presentations or things on that nature. MRB, there is another town in South Carolina that's using MRB. I will say that MRB representative here used to work in Anderson County's planning department. She was a county manager in another county in South Carolina. She does know South Carolina. She does know South Carolina zoning. I will tell you, I had two of the consultants that I have a relationship with. I talked to them, and the reason why they didn't bid is they don't want to bid on something this big was one of them, and the other one was they don't want the liability going right in the zoning ordinance. There are other projects they can do that they don't have to take on the same amount of liability to do. Because at some point, all this gets reviewed by an attorney, because this is what we're standing behind in court when it's all said and done. So MRB, I will say that the town of South Carolina has just got done with them writing their UDO. We flat out asked them, and they said they would hire them again.
So that's going to be in a prenuptial.
I think that's it, pretty much.
I think that's in the vows.
Unless you want to just wait, but I think we need to get moving on it. It's something we're behind on.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'll second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried, it's unanimous. All right, let's see. Next, we have a consideration award of bid for water and sewer revenue bond 2022 and selecting the number of years to finance. This item is a direct result of water and sewer revenue bond that staff has moved forward with as directed by council. Staff recommends the town council move forward with the 5-year financing option through People's Bank with the lowest interest rate.
The town's existing bonds will be ending around the same time, allowing the town to begin the large expansion of the waste treatment facility. Approval to award the bid to People's Bank and finance for 5 years is a recommended action. So having said that, any questions?
Our bond attorney is here.
Our bond attorney is here. That's right. I believe Brad Love is in the back. Yeah, there he is. Okay. If we have any questions about that.
We're looking at the 5-year plan primarily.
I mean, I would so within 5 years, you would have not only this one off of you, but you would have the 76 sewer expansion off.
Mhm.
And you would be really close to the first wastewater treatment plant bond paying off, which means that you would free up all of that capital to go back into another revenue bond, to do system upgrade, system expansion, system replacement, to the tune of about $4 or $5 million, which you would need by then.
Mhm.
So going out 7 years, the only thing between the 5 and 7 is the 7, you have a much more balanced payment of around $124,000, but you add that 2 years to that $124,000 on there, and a quarter more basis points on it. So the 5, you pay the 134 this year, and then you go to 179 for the next 4 years, and you end up saving yourself, on the net present value on it.
And that was through what bank?
People's Bank.
People's
It's
Bank.
right at the top.
Right here, okay.
Yep.
I don't really have any other questions. Does anybody else have questions about this?
I'm good.
I'm ready to make a motion.
All right.
Go ahead and accept this.
Okay, so making a motion to accept. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right, next we have consideration of unavoidable tree removal on the village green. Public Works has met with Tree South about the condition of a few trees on the village green. Attached is a message and pictures from Public Works outlining the necessary need to remove a few trees. Recommended action is approval. And of course, you have this in front, but just for everybody's benefit, pictured below, which what you're seeing are the 3 winged elm trees at the village green that both Public Works and Carl Corney with Tree South believe require the most immediate attention. The first 2 images show the elm tree that's closest to the guardhouse. This tree is dead due to Dutch elm disease and will become hazardous as it decays. Further decay of this already dead tree increases the potential for it to fall into the street or on the guardhouse. This tree should be removed. The next 2 images are of another elm tree that has grown in a way that is likely to fall. Tree South has advised that this tree be removed as there is no way to prune or treat the issues and as the tree trends in growth only on one side. And the last image is yet again an elm tree that unfortunately should be removed. This tree shows signs of a lightning strike and has already required some pruning for hazardous limbs overhanging the sidewalk. Carl gave some recommendations on replacement trees. Maple and similar evergreen trees that are currently on the green and are very healthy would make excellent replacements. The estimated cost of the removal of these trees, these 3, is $3,500. And that's the memo that came from Evan Link, Town of Pendleton.
I have a question regarding, those trees need to come down, in 6 bucks. I'm in favor of that. The 3,500, I didn't think was a bad price really, but does that include the stump removal as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know.
I'll have to ask. I don't know. My guess is.
I would think so.
I would think so, but
I don't know.
Seems low.
Some
I'm surprised
yeah,
it's low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just have to ask.
Okay.
So if it comes back higher, we're gonna have to.
Well, the reason why y'all have it, because anywhere else, we just do it in the budget and y'all never see it. The only reason it's even here is because it's on the village green. So, there's money to maintain all of our facilities. So if it's 4,500 because they forgot to put the stump right, we're just gonna do it. We just wanna make sure everybody's aware, you got 3 trees that need to be removed. And
And we also saw a proposal on other trees that may need to be trimmed too on the green and replacement. So we don't really, all we're doing is removing these right now. We don't, there's no replacement at this point in time.
well, replacement, I did go ahead and text Carl today and just verify. He's been putting new trees on there that are a size he feels like have the ability to survive. He actually doesn't like putting much larger trees. So a 2 to 3 inch caliber tree, he generally charges about $800 to $900 to put that in there and keep it alive and grow it up. The problem you got is just willy-nilly planting trees around the green. You know, so one elm that's dead, and by no means am I an arborist. The one elm that's dead in there by the guardhouse, I will tell you, there's several other ones that's going to die right around there. But there's also about 5 trees clumped together.
Right.
And it's just hard for them to grow. The one that's leaning is because you had a big oak grow over top of it, and it was trying to grow out to get sun. And then when the other oak died, it never straightened up.
But the point of this motion basically is we're taking care of the obvious right now.
You're taking care of the obvious, and everybody's aware we're getting
and safety too.
Yeah, safety, and everybody's aware we're getting ready to go take trees off the green and
Well,
provide
I
shade.
do want to make sure that we do have some kind of replacement plan. And I think we have plenty of people in town or with Clemson University that can help us come up with a plan about where to replant some trees. But some of the beauty of the green is that it's a shaded area where you can go in and enjoy a picnic or those kind of things. So, and I know in Carl's memo, it talked about a replacement plan. So I think I just want to make sure that that's present in the mind of everybody, that we will be replanting these, not necessarily the same tree in the same place, but trees to create a shaded area that accentuates the beauty of the green.
I agree.
I think the stumps being gone is also of an important safety part.
I'm
Access and-
less worried about the price and we'll want to make sure everybody okay.
Yeah.
Taking down trees.
Taking down trees.
You were taking down trees. And unfortunately, some of them are just coming to the end of their life.
Yes,
Sad.
absolutely. But I agree with the replacement. And we already know we've got at least one tree coming with the swing, correct? Okay. So what do we need to do here? We need to make a motion.
Yeah, just make a motion to approve removing the trees.
I'll make a motion that we remove those dead trees in the square.
Okay, have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right, next we have consideration of amending the Leadership Pendleton bylaws and appointing the council member to the Leadership Pendleton Board of Regents. Leadership Pendleton bylaws require the program to be held every odd numbered year. 2023 is a scheduled class year. There have been several resignations from the Leadership Pendleton Board of Regents, and a quorum cannot be obtained at meetings. To rebuild the board, it is recommended that Section 3.3 of the bylaws be amended to change the required number of board members from a minimum of 14 with a maximum of 20 to a minimum of 9 with a maximum of 15. It is further recommended that Section 3.3 be amended so that one member of the Pendleton Town Council will serve on the board whether they are a graduate of the program or not. And it is recommended that Councilman Vince Gollin be appointed to the board, and the recommended action is approved. Any thoughts on that?
I looked and I did not see this, although Steve says, but I think we need to look at a rotation of the board members so there are people that are continually coming on and going off.
I'm sorry, I answered him on that. And it should be in there because there's 2 years or.
It says you serve 2 years,
come on.
but it doesn't say how, if that person just keeps being reappointed.
We've never had anybody.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to add 2 new people from the most recent graduating class, and then your 2 oldest people come off. Past few times, we've not even had 2 people come on from the class, but I thought that was in there, so that's why I answered that.
But also, I would like for it to be a more diverse board. It does not necessarily reflect the community as far as its membership. So I'd like for us to, or that board to consider reaching out to add some diversity to the board is in the next year or so.
Okay. So you want to make that as a motion or something like that?
I don't think I can make it as a motion. I'm just trying to make my voice heard so that
Yeah.
they will consider that in the future. That those were two observations. That I do think we have an issue with people not realizing you can come onto the board or that you might be interested or that there's how that process happens. So I'd like for that to be a little more public and realize that you can rotate on if you completed. There have been a number of classes. It's been, I think, 15 years since I was on. So there are should be a lot of people out there that are potential eligible for that board. So please make yourself known so that we can change and rotate and have any more board members on that group.
Yeah,
Lord knows we got more people in town now.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Jenny wanted me to say that she could help this round if need be. She happened to mistakenly not come to that meeting.
Yeah, that'll get you in trouble every time.
She has been on it, so she's
We
qualified.
reached out to several past graduates.
So do we have a motion to amend the bylaws as presented here? And appoint Vince to the board?
I'll make a motion that we amend the bylaws and appoint Vince to the board.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a second over here. So all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
I mean, I'm for it.
You
but
for it?
I thought I had to recuse. I don't want to appoint myself.
You don't have a financial interest in this.
I don't have a financial. No, I
We don't
definitely
pay
don't
you
have a
anything.
financial.
We're not paying your time coming out for this meeting, sorry.
None of hardly any of my time gets.
We'll let you pay for whatever you want to.
Well, that's true. We will let you do it.
No, I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Vince. Yeah,
Yeah.
good job. Way to step up.
All right, so next we have consideration of approving the parking plan for the downtown area and authorizing the town administrator to move forward with this project. Staff worked with engineers and looked at roads around downtown to determine what parking could be made available. Right-of-ways were examined to determine the area open to add additional parking spaces. Sidewalks and lighting were also looked at to assess their needs. Once the plan is approved, staff and town engineers will begin bidding the project in phases. The streets that will be concentrated on first are Queen Street between Mechanic and Broad Streets, then East Main Street from Exchange to South Depot Streets, and South Broad Street from Main to Mechanic Streets, then Depot Street from Queen Street to the Pendleton Fire Department, and then Cherry Street from Broad and Depot Streets. In addition to marking the streets, several pedestrian safety measures will be placed on the roads. These include rumble strips and additional speed limit signs alerting drivers to the change in speed. Crosswalks and four-way stops at major intersections. We will add a much wider center stripping to broad to narrow the lanes so we can visually create a smaller road. In addition to the road markings and street signage, we will work with South Carolina DOT on the sidewalks. This will likely result in us signing a maintenance agreement to take care of the sidewalks in perpetually. The sidewalk work will include cleaning and repairing damaged areas. Street lighting will also need to be addressed, and we are asking council to approve installing 15 new street lights initially. This is an operational impact moving forward of over $3,000 per budget year. That's what it costs to have the street lights there per year. That's just an ongoing cost. This part of the program is essential because people need to feel safe walking to and from a parking space that is a distance away from their destination. The estimated cost is expected to be around $95,000. There's a capital project ordinance for this project of $128,000 minus what has been spent to create the plan. Needed sidewalk repairs may have to be covered under another line item. We will know more details about the funding once the project goes out for bid. Recommended action is approval. Having said all that, is there anything you want to elaborate on?
Yes, we do actually have our engineer here, to address some questions. First off, the initial is striping. All your roads, actually, in case anybody has drove around, people are already parking on the side of the road because it's already wide enough to park. So the initial thing, what may be the initial thing for years, is to stripe it all, to take away the haphazardness of where people are parking and get the signage in there, get crosswalks in there and lighting and get, some of the sidewalks repaired. Cherry Street in particular, while I understand it seems small, the right of way is actually very large on Cherry Street, in front of Melissa's house. We're not looking at building, that is a hardscape portion of this. That will actually have to come back and rebuild, just like you're rebuilding Queen Street, just like you rebuilt Exchange Street. But it does show you what's there, and you have a very large developable parcel there that may trigger that at some point. Especially if you get a performance-based UDO that may require developers to start installing that kind of stuff. The total cost, if anybody's interested, we have estimated out, if you were to go build everything today with the correct concrete, the correct curves, the correct drainage, the correct street lights, it's $3.6 million. What we're doing is striping the roads that are there with the asphalt that's there. We're not, we're going to mark off where people's driveways are so that people aren't parking over top of their driveways, so that there's areas of no parking, so that there's people understand I can park here when they drive down the road. That is the intent of the first phase. And I would ask Tyler just to come up, and he's with GMC, and I think most of the council is familiar with Tyler. He can address it some more, since he worked heavily on looking at the roads. The one thing that I think I caught is on Broad Street, the whole intent is to narrow Broad Street because it's so fast, is you actually may have enough to put a bicycle lane in there, which would help with mobility and narrowing the road. And I think as we move forward with SCDOT, we can look at probably just striping that in.
Yeah, and it's also going to create some traffic calming,
It
just to
is.
slow things down. And, there's been some concern over just a lot of through traffic from big trucks that come through here. They aren't delivering anything here, they're just rolling through here. And, if you make it harder for them to come through here, they'll just go somewhere else, which is what we'd really rather them do, is just go somewhere else.
And I also think it's worth pointing out, when you talk about making it harder, we can let Tyler talk here in a minute, is Broad and Main and Depot and Main, we're going to ask DOT to make a four-way stops along with Queen and Broad and Cherry and Broad, so that starts, you can put in crosswalks, start to create your pedestrians. But I'll actually let you talk now.
No, you're doing a great job. Yeah, you'll understand the podium, or is this fine?
If you would, thank you. You got a microphone there too, so big. Everybody
Everybody can hear me.
watching the live stream, hopefully can hear you.
Well, I appreciate the time today, and Steve really nailed a lot of the points. We've been working on this with town staff for several months. Really conceptual design. You've got a lot of the parking there in places. We really wanted to provide more definition to the parking that's available around the town, to provide some more guidance for people, so it isn't just the Wild West as people find a spot that their car will fit in that may block someone else. So again, Mechanic and Exchange are two streets that have had similar kind of streetscapes completed on. West Queen hopefully will enter into construction in the next few months. So that's kind of the vision that we'd ultimately like to work for, or work towards. But again, initially, like Steve said, it's really focusing on striping the road to condition people to understand that the roads are narrow, and ultimately, as we follow through in future phases, potentially with curbing, it's not just a shock. People are kind of prepared for the landscape, or the medians and that kind of thing, bump outs. But again, initial goals of the project were to slow traffic down, really define the parking, provide connectivity across these city streets, lighting and signage. And again, just really trying to bring everybody together and allow access to some of the benefits that the town has. Again, like Steve said, we've identified some phases. They're really in no particular order. They can kind of be taken down as the town would like, or as public input pushes a decision one way or the other.
Can we zoom in on that a little bit?
What's that?
I'm just wondering, nobody else can see.
I've got some exhibits in the back that I can leave here. They're just foam board, and so I can leave those in the back. I didn't expect everybody to be so excited about a parking plan today and be here. So
Yeah, they're very excited about that.
We're very excited.
Come on back on Friday.
But in total, again, a lot of these spots exist, and this isn't set in stone. This is a conceptual design that is different pieces are taken down to become a real project that will be reevaluated. More conversations with the DOT, more conversations with the town to make sure that we get everything that we want. In total, we have 271 street parking spots on the street if all this would be implemented. And then we've identified 2 parking lots that can be taken down in the future for an additional 68 lots, bringing a total of 339 parking spots. Any questions?
I have a question. Streetlights, can you tell me or give me some idea about where the 15 are gonna be?
I'll let maybe Steve on this.
So we will have some at all the intersections because they are dark. And I can tell you, if you walk down Queen Street, and you're on the sidewalk, and if you walk down Broad and you walk down Main, and you're going to need those about half blocks in there. So you need to try to light the intersections for pedestrian safety, and you need to try to space them enough to get people down there, especially if they're going to park at the Methodist church. So if you want your businesses to have their employees park on Cherry Street, which has a lot of parking on it that's already there, they need to be able to see to get down there. It gets really dark. So you're probably looking, if you ask Duke, they'll want you to have about 170-foot spacing. 15 is not going to get you there because you're going to need to have some down toward Depot and some down near the fire department and some at Main and stuff. But it's going to be a lot brighter. So.
All right, and that brings up, several people have expressed some concern about the light pollution and how much, are we gonna light the sidewalks or are we lighting up everything?
Well, they're street lights, so they shoot into the street. And so there may be some bleed off into the yard, but it's not like the light we have here in the parking lot. It's like a 400-watt sodium. These are just the standard LED street lights that are sitting out there.
If I was gonna say, if I can interrupt, say, if you want to see what that looks like, there's a street right directly in front of my house.
Yeah.
All right.
It was put in there back when Buddy Durham was in there. And it does bleed into my yard, but it's not like I walk out there and it's like I'm under an interrogation.
Well, having walked that section in the dark, I know it's not very bright.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that gives you an idea. It lights the street more than it does my yard, but it does light the sidewalk.
And Duke typically can provide a lighting plan that can show you kind of where that.
And two, it depends on
zone would be.
trees sometimes. Trees get in the way of that lighting. So sometimes it requires some tree trimming to make them work right.
Well,
And we've got a lot of lighting out there now.
There are a lot of
trees.
very bright ones coming up around town and people are just expressed some concern about the light pollution and how much it's going to impact their homes or their sleeping.
Yeah, so Duke has an engineer that will actually physically do, once we authorize him a number and lay it out there for us. He just did West Queen Street, which based on the comments, we're probably not going to have enough because of conflicts and we can't put as many out there as people want. And that may be the case here. You're not going to get them as close as you need them. But definitely as they're coming out and getting the intersections. Queen and Broad is a bad intersection because you got a lot of drop offs right there and people will walk right off into the edge. And then when you get, on down through there, it gets kind of light toward the church, but it's dark in a bunch of other places, so.
Well, I'll be glad to tell you where the dark spots are.
We have a lot of them.
So, Steve, just for clarification, we're talking, giving you approval to do the whole project as we see it right there conceptually.
No, we're talking about going into striping.
Just striping.
We know that we can't.
And the 15 lights.
Yeah, and the 15 lights, and we'll do the signage and work with DOT. We'll get the sidewalks clean, and we'll have to figure out which ones we have to start replacing.
That's what I want to make sure that the public understand. We're just doing striping
Just
right
doing
now.
striping.
I know you, okay.
I mean, we know, and there's another portion on here that I believe Carrie's in here. It's right beside Carrie's house. There's like 3 oak trees in there. People are already parking on there on top of all the oak tree roots. There's spaces here because that road can accommodate them, but we know that unless we cut down those trees, you actually need no parking there right now, because your street starts picking up the parking further down.
Right.
And is already built further down for the parking.
So there's no hardscaping going on here or anything right now. We're just
Very little hardscape. We may go in and pack some asphalt or add a little bit of shoulder or something somewhere, but it's not. You're not going to have what we're getting ready to get onto on West Queen Street.
I sort of think it's good to do it this way, just because it kind of gives you a way to see how it is going to work and what complaints you have about it, who it's affecting and who it's not, before you just go and do even if you had the money to do the thing all at once. I don't think that's a great idea.
But
it's kind of like we did the
striping-
downtown master plan. We did the charrettes and all, and blocked it off so people could go look at it and give us input as whether they like that or not. Like when we turned Exchange Street one way.
Where you got these intersections where, I mean, I know it remains to be seen whether SCDOT lets us, but say they let us do everything we want, just on the striping, are the bump outs along the parking where there's driveways and in the intersections, we're planning on striping those out? And is it like dashed lines or something in those areas?
It's typically dashed
Dash lines.
You may add some, we get real fancy, we may add some reflectors in there. You can add rumble strips in there if you really want to catch some people's attention. But
Carrie probably don't want to hear that.
well, you do have to be careful on the rumble strips, but Tyler and I were talking, and our intent at DOT will approve it is to strike those bump outs in there, because you want the trucks to feel like they have to make a tighter turn. And you want to limit how much road the pedestrians are having to cross.
Yeah, I think it's similar to Queen Street. The wider the road between stripes, people just feel like you have more ability to go fast. So trying to, again, condition passing trucks or other motorists that it's a tighter space before you go put curb everywhere. But we do have the rumble strips at the entry, the 3 kind of main entries into this area: Broad Street, I believe Main and Depot or Cherry. So again, just to try to notify people that they're entering to a, more of a residential area.
Okay. So you can be out there tomorrow striping?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick up the paint in the morning, roller.
Okay, any more questions? If not, does anybody have a motion that we move forward with this?
Well, maybe we need to say one more thing.
Okay.
If y'all approve it tonight, we still have to go to SCDOT and file encroachment permits.
Yeah, I say moving forward.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know what the encroachment timeline is now. I expect Greenwood to come up here and do a site visit.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna try to do all of it, it may be a little more involved, but, I think in 45 days to 60 days, you'd have kind of that approval and be able to get started. Or bid it, and get a contractor.
Just out of curiosity, what's the turnaround with deep power with lights?
If I catch Kevin on a good day, it's end of the week. If I catch Kevin on a bad day, it's
Well, I just know how long it took for some others.
Yeah, I think the lead
Yeah.
time is material, you know, it's kind of depending on the fixture. It may be shorter or longer.
And some, I guess, are harder to get than others.
Yeah, I think the decorative type poles are going to be 180 days out. That's what we're hearing.
We're not talking about decorative on this, we're just talking about.
Yeah.
Just for the Cherry Street crowd with the striping, is any of that, you said earlier that's hardscaping project on that street. Is there any striping that's going on during the striping phase on
Per-
Cherry Street?
Personally, the only thing Cherry Street would probably benefit from is going on the residential side of those houses and marking their driveways out. Because people can already park on Cherry Street. And that would just keep them from obstructing their driveways. But Cherry Street,
So you're talking about the section between Broad and Mechanic,
section between Broad
because the section in front of the Methodist Church will be striped.
The
There are a
section-
number of spaces.
Yeah, the Broad Mechanic, especially on the side that Reed Garrison's lot's on, I mean, it probably has $600,000 worth of infrastructure work that has to be done to it, easy. You know, but the street does allow for on-street parking. People may not realize that, but it does allow for on-street parking. And they may park there at certain times. So if we wanted to put mark the driveway entrances off, that would start correcting some of that too.
All right, and you said 339, is that the total?
If it's 271 on-street parking spots,
Okay.
and then there's a parking lot off of, I guess, East Queen, and the parking lot that's near, I'm not sure what it's a vacant lot, Depot, yeah. And each one of those were around 33 spots. So all combined, those 339 spops.
And so how many do we currently have?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't have that.
You currently, you talking about on Exchange Street and everywhere? I
Yeah.
don't know off the top of my head. I will say that Broad and Main fill up, but they're just not marked right now, so
So we're gonna double our marked spots with this?
problem.
Okay.
Problem.
This does not include West Queen either.
Yeah, West Queen has on-street parking being built into it. So I think
And that lighting will, I know this is a different topic, but the lighting will come to the square, so people would feel comfortable walking down to that. I mean, it's gonna be lit well enough for people to walk to that.
I would say there's talking about conflict, so there's a conflict that Duke has that they're not gonna, due to there's a horizontal clearance from overhead electric as well as a vertical. And so where the power line is coming down Queen, there's going to be a spot where they're not going to let us put a pole. So you'll have lights at Queen and Mechanic, and you will have lights kind of as the island starts. And there'll be a 300-foot section in there that may not have a light, and in the future, electricity goes underground or something that, there may be an opportunity, but that was the feedback that Duke had. They just didn't feel comfortable. I think it's a 12-foot horizontal separation.
3 foot. No, it's 5 foot vertical or 3 foot vertical.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's all utilities. That includes AT&T.
Mhm.
The lowest.
Yeah, that's not just electric. That's all the attachments.
You're going. Honestly, you're going to be disappointed with the amount of lights that you're going to get on West Queen Street. So I can't remember the total, but it's less than 20, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
the only other way to get more is to install Cobra heads, and you already have Cobra heads on the poles down there. So.
One's out where the tree was been, but I just hadn't filled it out online.
What's that?
The tree took out one recently.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So what's council's pleasure? We have a motion to move forward.
I make a motion to move forward.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Motion carries unanimous. All right, so next we have consideration of accepting the quick claim deed for Dalton Road, Track B. This is Track B of Dalton Road and is in the area for the final alignment with Boscobel Road. The town has already accepted Track A, and with the award from ACTC for the road alignment, we need to accept and record the right-of-way for Track B. The project is currently out to bid, and awards are expected for the spring construction schedule. Any questions or comments on that one? Recommended actions approved.
I just have a question. I think, so we don't have any decision-making on that process? I mean, obviously, it needs to be done, but I am concerned about changing that. Are they gonna have flashing lights to say new?
You talking about at the intersection?
Yeah.
So our original contract, and the only reason in our original contract, this movement was only $175,000. It's 1.4 million now, because SCDOT tied this in with other improvements. That's going 187, which is why we went to ACTC. So we have basically turned over all control of the final design decisions to ACTC. Now, will they have and D. Carpenter and I talked last week, and he's very aware they're probably going to make the school put in a stoplight there. So they're probably going to have to do that if they build a new high school or do any expansion to the high school.
They're gonna put a stop sign or stop light
Stoplight.
at that intersection.
As far as flashing lights or anything at that intersection, the signal, to do any type of signalization, I don't see that on that road. It's not up on any other intersections on that road that I know of. And that's an SCDOT decision. So, but there's turn lanes and everything else that they're, have made us do. And this isn't the engineering drawings. This is just what you've got to have for right of way to do it.
I just see it being having a very negative impact on not the realignment, but I think the realignment's going to make people move faster and end up with a traffic problem. So hopefully the traffic signal will get in there faster rather than slower. Maybe end up being a traffic circle instead of a.
I would much prefer a traffic circle there, but.
Yeah, I like traffic.
Yeah.
So
It was, I didn't think you would see this at DOT stand, so this is at least a step there.
Yeah. True. Anybody else?
So this is really just gonna, to redate it.
This is just to deed it.
We're not engineering that intersection right now.
We from the edge of right of way back to Dalton, we actually already have engineered. So.
Back to Dalton.
Yeah. So it was originally when we redid Dalton.
Okay.
So that's all engineered, which ACTC now has. So, and they're moving it forward with SCDOT at this point. And ACTC is the Anderson County Transportation Committee for everybody not familiar, so. We just need to make this public right away. That's what this action is.
Basically. Just paperwork, legal paperwork. So I'm gonna make a motion that we go ahead and accept this consideration, accepting quitclaim deed for Dalton Road, track B.
Okay. We have a motion to have a second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. And next we have a consideration of requests to approve matching funds for the CDBG project for phase 1 of the neighborhood revitalization plan. Council funded neighborhood revitalization plan in the 21-22 fiscal year budget. The planning process began in March of 2022, and council adopted the plan resulting from this process in October of 2022. This plan is a requirement to apply for a community block or community development block grant funds for neighborhood revitalization. And our plan identified 2 phases of funding requests. The plan's highest priority was code enforcement and the demolition of houses. At this time, we have not staffed a code enforcement officer to be able to complete this phase. Therefore, the next highest priority was chosen, which is addressing walkability, lighting, and safety concerns. We received approval to apply for CDBG, so engineers provided an estimate on completing a sidewalk from the edge of the ARC Streetscape project to Winston and Keys Streets. This includes repairing existing damaged sidewalks and installing new sidewalks, crosswalks, streetlights, and crime prevention systems. It is estimated to be $1 million. The grant will provide up to $500,000 in funding. The town would have to provide the remaining match for the project. Typically, $600,000 is the total capital expenditure available to spend each year on projects. We have cash funded matches for grants by saving money and allocating it to the fund balance when it is due. The council needs to direct staff on how they want the town to proceed because this will affect upcoming budgets for the town. The following are some options available. Number 1, not proceed with the grant. Number 2, allocate next year's capital money toward the match. Number 3, reauthorize the general fund bond to provide the match for the project. The recommended action is to reallocate the general fund bond to provide the match. Having said that, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I will tell you that the feedback that Gio Francisco and I are getting from Commerce is they really like the plan and the project. The project could be cheaper if we don't go from Scott Drive down to Winston Street and repair those sidewalks or sidewalks on both sides of the street there. But when we get on Winston going toward Keys, because we have right-of-way acquisition that we have to do, and we have grading costs and stormwater costs, because that street was set up on a ditch line. Even if we stay on the church side of that street, from what Tyler and I have talked about, it's just a very expensive project. But you're going to get, almost dollar per dollar for what you put into it from the state right now. So if you reauthorize the general fund bond, which we can, on our 8%, and luckily I have our bond attorney here, on our 8%, we can right now borrow about 1.2 million. We never borrowed 1.2 million because that takes all your borrowing cap up. And we have tried to stay, since we have started using some GO bonds in that 3 to 5 year range, and have tried to only stay, unlike some other cities, into doing capital projects with those GO bonds and those revenue bonds. So if you authorize that, if we apply for the grant's awarded in the spring, you have 36 months once your grant is awarded to complete your grant and close it out. Completing the grant and closing out is more than completing the groundwork. Once we do all that, we have a few months of paperwork on the back end of it. But with 3 years, I know I talked to Sandra about it, about, taking all the money and would we be able to add police officers or anything. If you just did it in your GO bond at $600,000, you would start paying that in the next budget year. We would time it to release it next budget year, and that's right around $130,000 in bond payments, maybe a little bit more. Well, it's going to be more because our current one's 5 years at $600,000, and with the interest rates. But you would pay that off, and by the time you paid that off, you would probably be through construction. But you would have most of your match in hand right now, and probably borrowing at a much better interest rate period than what you can foresee going forward at this point. And it would still allow you to keep moving forward some of your other capital projects, and it wouldn't threaten a whole lot if you want to do lease finance or anything. You're starting to build all that back in your budget, so you have a fully robust budget to manage some of this stuff.
Any thoughts on that? What's council's pleasure?
Well, we went through the process and this was an idea that came from residents to improve walkability and safety. I think the bonding option makes sense, so it doesn't strain our ability to do anything else or what other things that we also want to do in the same time frame. In my opinion, it's long overdue to get some improvements in the neighborhood.
Okay, anyone else?
We're talking about sidewalks and, repair and putting in new sidewalks. We really don't know. I mean, I drove by there several times. It's like, I can't tell what needs to be repaired and what needs to be replaced.
There you go.
Or if any of it.
And that's part of what's driving the $1 million price tag to it.
Mhm.
I mean, you're going, and when we say repair, we mean cutting out and replacing.
Mhm.
Just, there's not a whole lot of repairing cracked concrete or anything. But you have other considerations, like you get to the end and maybe you have to build handicap ramps with warning strips and everything else, and, to make the intersections right, or the going across the street, so there's side notes or wheelchairs go across the street. So there's more to it than just that. And when you start talking about sidewalks, you would be surprised, especially when it's a ditch line road, how much grading has to be done.
Yeah, that's when don't we already have an issue with the county with that right now?
As far as
the drainage and the ditch line road?
Well, drainage is all ours.
Okay.
Like the county doesn't do anything inside the municipality, unless we request and pay them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is it worth it? My impression from going through the process with the residents is the situation right now is if you go out there trying to walk, there's absolutely no way to do that safely at night because it's dark. And then if you want to do it in the daytime, it's a curved area and you feel like you're putting yourself out on the road to try to utilize it in a recreational way that would be neighborly and conducive to what people want to do, but they're not using it to walk on right now because they feel that it's unsafe.
Can I make a motion that we reallocate the general fund bond?
Second. Have a motion second. Any more discussion?
We're going to reallocate? Is that what the motion is?
Reallocate.
Reauthorize.
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 Okay. You can see our attorney back here.
Yeah, he's gonna let.
Okay, we're going to reauthorize the general fund bond to provide the match. We're talking about the match here for the project, right?
Well, that's where you're gonna get your match. Your match is about 600,000. And in 3 years, I mean, we may have to take a little bit of cash and put in for overage at that point.
Okay.
Getting the construction numbers are difficult right now.
Yeah, and what today's numbers say might not be tomorrow's. Real good chance.
Mamas tell your babies to go into concrete work.
Exactly. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right. So we have next on the agenda, consideration of a resolution recommending Pendleton Town Council release the temporary irrevocable letter of credit for Great Southern Homes totaling $83,137.50 for the development known as Riverside Hills. On October 24th, 2022, Ms. Molly Scaris requested by email that the town of Pendleton release the temporary irrevocable letter of credit submitted by Great Southern Homes for roadway, curb, and guttering improvements in Phase 1 of Riverside Hills development. On October 28th of 2022, town staff inspected this area and determined that the required work as detailed in our land development regulations was completed. So the recommended action is to release the irrevocable letter. Any thoughts on that? If not, do I hear a motion?
Phase one. Is there more than, I've driven through there.
It could very well not have more than one phase. I don't know. David, do you know?
Now, that was the whole development. This was for infrastructure and all the roads in that neighborhood are state private. So this is for the entranceway there. We require them to do that and the infrastructure.
Okay, all right.
That's our favorite kind of roads.
That's right. That's right. We like those roads.
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, have a motion to have a second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. That's unanimous. Okay, next we have consideration of first reading of an ordinance amending zoning map and rezoning 540 East Main Street from agricultural forest to flexible review district, otherwise known as FRD, and to accept the statement of intent for the flexible review district and other matters related thereto. On May 26, 2022, Mr. Ben Shirley, applicant and property developer, met with the Town of Pendleton Planning Department in reference to 540 East Main Street, Morton Farm. He informed the town that he was seeking to rezone this 28.18 acre property and construct single-family homes. On June 23, 2022, Mr. Shirley submitted preliminary plans for subdividing this land along with preliminary design ideas for the construction of 60 new single-family homes. Town staff members conducted a staff-level review of this plan and submitted several design suggestions to developers per our land development regulations. On August 15, 2022, town staff posted the property with public hearing notice signage and ran a legal ad in Anderson Independent Mail notifying the public of a scheduled public hearing for September 8, 2022 with the Planning Commission. Staff also mailed 16 adjacent property owners letters informing them of this upcoming public hearing. On September 1st, 2022, the developer submitted final development plans that included a request to rezone the property from agricultural forest AF to flexible review district FRD, along with a statement of intent for this development. This plan shows a subdivision of 61 single-family lots with a density of 2.17 units per acre. This plan also contains 9.27 acres almost of open green space, including walking trails. On September 8th, 2022, the Pendleton Planning Commission held its regular meeting and conducted a public hearing on this rezoning request and major subdivision. At this meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended Town Council rezone this property and accept the statement of intent and other related matters. Town Council also considered this recommendation at its regular meeting on October 3rd and resolved to rezone this property with 3-2 vote. Recommended action is approved for the first reading this ordinance, which is rezoning 540 East Main Street from agricultural AF to flexible review district and accept the statement of intent for the flexible review district and other matters related to thereto. So having said that, any questions or comments, thoughts or motions or anything?
I move,
You gonna make a motion?
I move that we approve the first reading of the ordinance for 540 East Main Street from agriculture forest AF to flexible review district, which is our FRD, and accept the statement of intent for the flexible review district and other matters related.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'm gonna go ahead and second that motion.
Okay.
I just want to make the comment that, Mr. Shirley, he's been very, very responsive to any questions I have. And so this is the first reading, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We got one more reading?
Yes, sir.
Because tonight there were some comments that were made earlier, and I would like to have, more dialogue with Mr. Shirley before the additional reading, the final reading, I should say. But I'm going to go ahead and make the motion now that we go ahead and pass this.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 3-2. Next, we have consideration of second and final reading of an ordinance amending, I guess, really providing for council rules of order and procedures at meetings and procedures for the enactment of ordinances and resolutions. At the August 1st, 2022 council meeting, council directed staff to update the ordinance that sets the dates of town council meetings. The direction given to the staff was to move the town council meetings from the first Monday to the first Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Following the first reading, staff updated the time limit allotted to citizens. The ordinance reflected 2 minutes, and our practice during meetings has been 3 minutes, so we kept that. The ordinance will become effective on January the 1st, 2023. Recommended action is approval. Any comments or questions on that? If not, do we hear a motion?
I move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yeah, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. Next, we have consideration of second and final reading of an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $825,000 principal amount waterworks and sewer system revenue bond, Series 2022, of the town of Pendleton, South Carolina, providing for the payment of said bond and other matters relating thereto. Background is this ordinance results from the September council meeting discussion item to move forward with a meter reading changeout program. Once the ordinance is officially adopted, the bond will bid out and we can lock in our quote for meters and equipment. We're requesting the ability to fund up to $825,000 for this project, including all closing costs. Recommended action is approval. Any questions or comments on that?
Brad, do you have any additional to the ordinance?
No, I think you guys said it all. You can answer your questions you may have.
Okay. So hearing none, do we have a motion to pass this for second and final reading?
I move.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right, so next we have another section of public comments. The only difference here is this one allows questions. So if you have questions, we'll attempt to answer them. If we can't answer them right away, we'll get back to you. The same rules apply as before otherwise. So having said that, is there anyone here who wants to make a comment or ask a question? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Lisa Rosado. I'm business owner of Brooklyn Style Pizza on Exchange Street. My question was wondering if there was any way that you would consider allocating any type of to-go parking, like short-term in front of my business. These days, I have a lot of takeout. Sometimes my takeout is more than my dine-in. So I was coming to see if you folks would consider that. That was the main thing. And then I also had a customer concern about the steps that's over by Greenheart Awakening on Mechanics and Main over there, because they come through town, they come from Mikasa, and they have, the scooters and the chairs, and they can't go down the stairs with the chairs. And they were wondering if anything could be done about that. My other question was, I know they said they were going to start with striping. I mean, how long is it going to take for you to get a permit? And how many parking spots did he say that we were going to gain with the new striping?
271.
So, and that will be new, so then total is 271, or that's in addition?
That's in addition to the downtown parking.
And what about a parking lot? I know you mentioned a parking lot. What's going to happen behind us where we are? Because right now, that's a mess behind us. And we have trucks and cars, and they just put like a garbage bin there, and people have been parking back there, blocking the doors. And then there's not even enough room because there's a huge container, there's gravel, there's just a bunch of rubbish there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the town's moving forward currently with purchasing that lot. So at that point, we'll be taking a lot over and hopefully address concerns.
Yeah, because we also get those big trucks that come through. I get a couple of trucks a week. Blue Heron gets a couple of trucks a week.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it just as a fact, I guess, we voted literally today to go forward with purchasing that lot.
Yeah, because it's a mess back there, and another business owner has put it out there on Facebook that that's additional parking for the customers. It's also hazardous parking
Now,
for the
we've definitely seen the
customers.
problems you're talking about.
You know, and it's like even sometimes I have to be careful when I walk out there. Most of the things that you discussed tonight that was part of my questions, the lighting, the sidewalks, because I also have a young fella that rides his scooter and he fell a couple of times, I guess, driving the scooter just went flying the roads. And then I saw him driving down Main Street one night and it was so dark that I just happened to just catch him by a second. And then I pulled over and I said, what are you doing? It's so dark. Why are you, riding over here in the street like this so dark at night? And he says, well, did you see the sidewalks? Which you did, you addressed that because the sidewalks are pretty bad with the inclines and the bumps and the roots from the trees coming up.
Yeah, back to you to go parking. Exchange Street there is a city-owned street, so that would be, I guess, up to council about that.
Well,
I have seen it before. But
we don't, so I don't correctly know the process to do it, but because they're public streets, you have to follow a process in order to dedicate spots.
Yeah.
And it probably means that we have to update our road and right-of-way ordinance in order to do it.
That's something we just have to look into.
So Pendleton does not own Exchange Street?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. But you can't just dedicate a public property.
Right.
So you have to have a process in order to dedicate it, because everything that is public unless the public can benefit from it. So generally, my understanding is that generally businesses would have to buy permits or something to maintain those. We do have in our zoning ordinance where if anybody did residence down there, that they would have to purchase a residential permit. So if Main Exchange building put residence up top.
Because we do have, certain residents that come out and are unable to walk. I have one particular fellow that has Parkinson's, and he came out on a fair day, wanted pizza, left his car home, and I couldn't let him walk home like that. I went and walked him home. I didn't know, I thought he lived around the corner, but he's all the way down. If you take that Main Street and go straight back into the back, and I guess it comes up around Mikasa, that's where he lives. So he would have even on a normal day when he comes up for pizza, he can't find parking. He parks at the wine bar because the girls know him there, and then I run the pizza up to him.
Yeah.
So it's just something that I think would benefit, and maybe, probably a couple of them for us, Blue Heron, we all have that to go. And on any given Friday or Saturday, Blue Heron has about 250 reservations.
Yeah.
So if I can't get people to park, I need that little to-go spot.
Yeah, that's something we just have
If
to
you
get back
had
to.
like a section of, say, everywhere downtown is 2-hour parking,
Something like that.
and then you have one section that these 3 spots are 15 minutes.
Or something. Yeah, we'll just have to
Then
look
it
at
would
that.
service.
But that's a good
It
idea.
may not be permitted in your business, but it would.
Well,
I mean, obviously that's gonna be a little bit more.
ultimately, the only people that can enforce it is us. So if we don't have a police officer on duty, it doesn't matter if we said there were 5-second parking. Nobody else can tow the vehicle, ticket the vehicle, remove the vehicle unless we have enough officers to cover it.
Yeah, there's a lot to be considered.
Yeah. So we can mark them, and what most cities do instead of trying to get into the whole leasing the spaces and everything else, is they mark them with 15 minutes, but you have to have a mechanism in place to enforce that 15 minutes. It's the same reason like the burning, we just don't have enough mechanisms in place to enforce it. So you would have a better chance of buying the parking lot and then leasing it back to the businesses as a lease and let the businesses control it at that point than us having anything. Then we're just controlling the lease and they're controlling the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, because we got to come up with something too, because
Right.
people are talking about, customer parking, but where do the employees park too? I have a lot of young girls that, I tell them I want them in the back so that way I can walk them out. Other than that, we're walking them all over at night and, I'm in fear of their safety because the streets are dark.
That's an age-old problem here.
Yeah, there was,
It is.
oh, not to mention, I know that you're working on it about the cross lights on the main street over there. But
Yeah,
one of
I
our
think
business
for just a
members was
second,
almost hit by a
not to
car.
interrupt you here. Where are we on time? I didn't hear.
You're down to 9 seconds, and that we're total of 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Yes, it's only 3.
All right, well, a business
If you-
member almost was hit by a
Yeah,
car on
you can
Main
just wrap
Street,
it
so
up.
we could just take care of that as soon
Okay.
as possible for the parking and pedestrian crossing. That's it.
Okay, thank you. We
You're
appreciate your ideas and your comments. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Come on.
I'm Peg Wagner. We also have a business on Exchange. I didn't know if you've probably considered everything, but there's a wide open parking lot for Tri-County at the end of our street. Any way of getting a little shuttle or a nice trolley and
Yeah, we thought about that.
hire a retired person, that could solve our problem almost immediately while you're putting in lines and street lights and whatever. It's a thought.
Yeah.
The other thought is build up Buddy Durham, put another layer on that. Now that you have the back open, those are a little bit probably quicker solutions, although I know you've been working on this for a few years, we've been told, but something has to be done. And quicker than I think it's gonna get done for all of us, because we're gonna lose our customers. We all are. And I'm happy they're being towed, who's parking where they shouldn't. But again, we're gonna be known for the town also that tows our customers. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Anyone else? All right. Oh, you're good. Reagan.
Reagan Young, I have a business on East Main Street. I have just a few points that I believe are very urgent. I think they've been urgent for the 5 years we've been in business. I think more attention is drawn now that we've got more businesses in Pendleton, especially restaurants that are open at night, and foot traffic comes from those places to Mama Ray's, thank God, because we've lost several customers that people will park off the square and walk 10, 15 minutes to sit down, have a nice meal, have a glass of wine. They'll do that because they're spending time on the square. People will not walk 15 minutes for a cup of ice cream or a milkshake, unfortunately. So we're losing business, and it's really awful. With that said, we appreciate our local businesses saying, if you want dessert or whatever, walk down to Mama Ray's, which is great. It is imperative that something is done with the parking situation in front of our shop. It is completely chaotic and nonsensical. There's a parking spot right in front of the fire hydrant down by 2 whatnots. I would think there shouldn't be a parking spot there, but there is. Then there's a crosswalk that is just 2 lines, and I know several years ago whined and complained that we needed a crosswalk. So I got those 2 lines. Really what those 2 lines do is just make people think it's one really long parking space, because that's what it's become, and it's a joke. There is 0 light. So when those people that come from dining on the square have little kids, and I work a lot of Friday nights and I stand at that window and I can see them get to the stairs. There's no light. There's no indication that that's a crosswalk. Traffic just whips past our shop like crazy. Then you've got people in these weird parking spots that don't make any sense, 0 sense, are trying to back out. I've seen more parents panic, scream, cry like their kids are almost getting hit. I know a business owner yesterday in broad daylight almost got hit crossing the street. Something has to be done. It is urgent. And I don't know if I don't know, obviously, you guys know this. Like, I don't know the processes. I'm not up here pretending to know. I don't know who owns the street. I don't know if it's DOT needs to get on this, but somebody is going to get hit. It's going to happen. I've seen it almost happen. It's a cluster. It's awful. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else like to make a comment?
Well, can we make a note with the striping that we put the stripes in the crosswalk at least? I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, we try to go across there. There's also, with where the streetlights are, you can't get by if people are walking. One streetlight has been taken down.
Well, yeah, the angle
out
parking
there.
creates an issue on there too. Because see, the state now, I mean, for you to put angle parking somewhere on one of their roads, you can forget it. They don't allow it.
I'm almost like,
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but it's been there, so it's still there. But it creates a problem. You know, we had the other spaces on the other side there for a while. We took those out to kind of make it a little better because it's just too narrow through there by the time, you know, you have those angle parking spaces and it creates a problem all the time.
Well, the lighting might be an age-old problem that needs to be fixed now.
Yeah, the lighting, true. Of course, you've got the pole lights, but they don't produce.
Well, and the Mountain Aid building is there, so I know that there would have to be an issue, like where do you put lights, like we put them on the building, I don't know.
All
I
right.
don't know, and I don't have the answers, but I know that somebody's really, something bad is gonna happen out in front of our shop.
Mhm.
It's awful. At night, come by and see, it's awful.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see what we can do. We'll look at it. Anybody else want to make a comment or ask a question? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close that. Next item would be adjournment. If council doesn't have anything else, do we hear a motion that we adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, have a motion, to have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to second. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, folks. Appreciate everyone coming.